Okay, so I'll introduce you to our students. We've got four students here with us tonight. So we have, oh, I've got you written down in the wrong order. It's Kim, Elas, Grace, and then Kelvin, or did I just get that wrong? I think we almost got it right. But I will now, I think, after all my talking and checking everything I've said is good. Yeah, we're ready to go. I will now pass you over to Kim, who's going to do the first section.
Good eve-
Welcome, Kim.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the introduction, Michelle. My name's Kim, and I'll be presenting the first part of this exciting presentation on gut health tonight. Um, before we before we begin, I would also like to acknowledge and pay respect to the traditional zone of the land on which we meet today, the Ngunnawal people. It is upon their ancestral land that the University of Canberra is built. As we share our own knowledge, teaching, learning, and research practices within the university, may we also pay respect to the knowledge and traditions of the Ngunnawal people. Today, we'll be covering the following topics: the importance of a healthy gut to our health, the relationship between the gut health and other health conditions, nutrition tips for maintaining a healthy gut. And then we will conclude by answering any questions you may have about our presentation, as well as any gut-related questions that we may not have addressed yet. Before we get into all of the gut stuff, does anyone know what a dietitian actually does? Feel free to unmute yourself or type the answers into the chat box,
So this is
please.
a little interactive part. So you can have a type a quick thing in the chat. What do dietitians do, or what do you think dietitians do? Or you can just pop off mute and have a guess. Do you know, I have a question about dietitians. I was told the other day that dietitians can be spelt differently, that sometimes people use a C and sometimes people use a T. Is that a thing do you
That
guys
is,
know of?
yeah, that is correct. So, apparently, when it's spelt with a C, it's the American way of spelling it, and with a T,
Okay.
it's the Australian way of spelling it. Yeah.
Yeah, I always need to be quite careful of that sometimes when I'm typing it out. Like go between the American and Australian one.
Yes. Has anyone found the chat and want to have a guess what dietitians do? I'm going to put something in the chat. They, there we go. There's mine.
Yeah, we
They
certainly do.
help us with food information.
Hmm. Yeah.
I would say, like, my guess is a lot of planning. I mean,
Hmm.
there's planning involved with usually you're going to see a dietitian when you have a specific goal in mind. And so I would say helping to plan for like different gut conditions. Oh,
Hmm.
yes, here we go. Create a
Yeah.
plan for chronic illness diet and suggest healthy foods. Tell you what you should eat in regards to your body. Perfect,
Mhm.
everyone. Very good guesses. What do you think, Kim? Is that
Yeah, those are all correct answers. Thank you for contributing them. So the field of dietetics is actually surprisingly broad. Dietetics applies the science of food and nutrition to promoting good health, preventing and managing disease, and optimizing overall well-being. It involves understanding the complex relationship between food and health to support individuals in making informed dietary choices. We also support communities at a broader level by providing general nutrition education through the development of resources, assisting in nutrition programs, and delivering webinars like this one. We also provide general education on a common misconception is that we are the food police, which we are certainly not.
the food and fun police
Yeah.
come along to tell us we're not allowed to eat chocolates?
No, we will never do that. We will never judge or shame you for your food choices, nor will we forbid you from eating a delicious cookie or chocolate. Dietitians are here to help you make educated nutrition choices that support your health and well-being.
And we all know how important, and we're becoming so much more aware of how much what we eat impacts the rest of our systems. And
Yep.
so, yeah, it's such a interesting place to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, enough about us. Let's start talking about the gut. On this side, you see a simple overview of the gut structure and the function of each part. Let's investigate what happens when you take a bite from an apple. First, you take a bite of the apple, and in your mouth, it gets broken down into smaller pieces by chewing. Your tongue then helps push these pieces back into the esophagus. The esophagus acts like a slide, moving the chewed apple pieces down into your stomach. In the stomach, apple pieces are stored and mixed with digestive juices to help it break it down further. Once it's properly churned and softened, the apple moves into the small intestines. The small intestine is where most of the magic happens. Here, the nutrients from the apple, like sugars, vitamins, and water, absorbs into your bloodstream to give you energy and keep you healthy. Next, any leftover parts of the apple that can't be absorbed moves into the larger intestines. Here, the remaining water and salts are absorbed and waste is prepared to leave your body. Finally, the waste is stored in the anus until it's time for your body to get rid of it. So from taking a bite to digestion and absorption, your gut works hard to turn the apple into fuel for your body. This process does not just happen when you take a bite from an apple, but it also happens with all other food you eat.
Wait, how long does it normally take? Is there like an average amount of time something takes from when you first put it in your mouth to when it's rejoining the sewage system?
It's actually quite individualized.
Okay.
Yeah, everyone
Yeah.
has, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Interesting.
And then the microbiome, which we'll be talking quite a lot about today, refers to the microorganisms living in a particular environment. So today we'll be talking about the microbiome in your gut, which we call the gut microbiome.
I like to call them my gut friends. That's what I call. That's what I tell my kids. The little gut friends. You've got to feed your little gut friends.
We certainly
Microbiome.
do.
Yeah.
So a microbiome is made up of trillions of different microorganisms living in our digestive system. What's fascinating is that the makeup of each person's gut microbiome is unique, just like our fingerprints. This means that the types and amount of microorganisms in your gut biome is characterized by a diverse range of beneficial bacteria and a stable environment where both good and potentially harmful bacteria coexist without causing any issues. However, this balance can be disrupted by factors such as infections, certain diets, prolonged use of antibiotics, or medications that destroy the good bacteria. When the microbiome is disrupted, it can lead to changes in the body's normal function and negatively impact health. For example, one of the earliest influences on our gut microbiome is the infant diets. The composition of milk, whether breast milk or formula, helps shape the development of the early gut microbiome. And as we grow, the diet continues to play a crucial role. For instance, a vegetarian and a non-vegetarian diet support the growth of different dominant microbial species. Emerging research also suggests that modern diets high in salt and processed fats may harm our gut. Additionally, antibiotics, while they are effective against harmful bacteria, it cannot distinguish between good and bad microbes, often wiping out beneficial organisms along with the harmful ones. Now let's talk about the importance of having a healthy gut. This will just be a brief overview, and we will go into more detail in the coming slides. A healthy gut plays a crucial role in our general health and well-being. It digests foods and absorbs nutrients that are essential for the proper functioning of our entire body. The gut also communicates directly with the brain to help maintain balance inside the body, keeping everything working smoothly. Importantly, the gut acts as a first barrier in our immune system. It detects and destroys harmful organisms that enter the body, protecting us from infection and disease. Having a healthy gut can also help reduce the risk of serious health conditions such as cardiovascular diseases, diabetes, some cancers, and even help balance our hormones. In short, taking care of your gut is a key to supporting your overall health and well-being.
It's a really underrated system. People don't often think of you go to the gym to sort of help your heart health and your cardiovascular, or you lift weights to sort of help your muscles, and you might do mindfulness and meditation to help your brain, but no one really thinks like you don't often think, what am I doing to help my gut? I think people are more and more these days, but like, yeah, it's a little bit of a poor or forgotten system, yet it's so vital and crucial to like so many other systems. So
interestingly, though, mindful meditation can also have a
help,
help
like a
with your gut.
two-way.
Yeah, because stress actually influences our gut as well.
Quite a lot, yes.
Yeah. Some of you may have heard of leaky gut. This is when our gut lining celiac disease, drinking too much alcohol, or even stress. The good news is that the gut usually recovers when you remove the trigger. There's no proven diet or drug that fixes it, and current evidence doesn't support probiotics for this, which is commonly discussed in the media. But yeah, probiotics, there's no evidence to support that. It's also important to remember that leaky gut is a symptom, not a diagnosis. If you're getting ongoing symptoms, it is best to see a GP to check in for things like celiac disease, IBS, or IBD.
This is a really interesting one because you see leaky gut sort of splashed around a lot in social media and lots of things, and it sounds really bad, like, oh no, my guts are leaking. Like this is leaky gut kind of situation happening. So don't let the like social media make you feel like it's a huge thing and your guts are about to leak and fall apart. It's not like that, really, is it?
No, yeah, the social media always spreads some interesting information.
Not always correct.
Yes, not
Sometimes
always
correct, but yeah,
Yeah.
definitely worth checking.
Yeah, we do always want to check the scientific knowledge and evidence behind.
Evidence-based,
Yeah, evidence-based.
especially around food stuff.
So did anyone have any questions so far regarding the information provided in the last few slides?
We do. We have a question. Did someone, do you want to jump off mute, Christine? Yep, off you go.
I can't see where you put your hand up, but anyway.
Oh, there's like sometimes you can see a little raise hand button, but doesn't matter. You can just raise your real hand. I can see it. Go.
Okay. So I don't know what these symptoms are. What is it that leaks into your bloodstream in a leaky gut?
Kelvin, would you like to answer that question? Because you're the expert on that topic.
Go, Kelvin. Kelvin's working out how to unmute. Here we go. What if I press this little button? Right. There we go. There we go. So what is actually leaking in leaky gut?
You mean the symptoms?
Yeah, like what are the symptoms of leaky gut? And when people are talking about the permeability and the leakiness, like, yeah, what's transferring? What's actually happening?
And you would like some will cause some bloating and then some abdominal pain or cramping or some
Hmm.
diarrhea. And you can also take a look for the stool condition. It will be like a bit loose, and then sometimes you will get fatigue, and then and other causes like nutrition deficiency because um, you don't get a good digestion because of this.
So what do people actually think is leaking? Like why is it called leaky gut?
Yeah,
Yep, I see you,
because
Gordana.
yeah,
Yep,
because when the gut lining, the the gate open
membranes.
into the bloodstream.
And that's what's maybe causing these kinds of symptoms.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's happening more regularly, and there's something in there that's crossing over and irritating that you'll be getting that GI distress like bloating and cramping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Kathy's just put something in the chat to expand on that as well.
Undigested foods, waste products, and bacteria. That's what's leaking. Okay. And so you don't really want that leaking into your bloodstream, I'm guessing? No. Okay. Gordana, you look like you have something to add to this section. Go.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Processed food could be anything, whatever you had to eat. And
Yes,
that's bad
right.
news. That's not good.
If
They'll
it's
say
too leaky, then things are going through and
anything
you're getting those symptoms.
shouldn't leak because it goes in your blood and then goes all over your body, and you don't want that.
Yeah,
I think
okay.
it's dangerous. Don't dismiss it.
Don't dismiss those GI distress symptoms if you're getting it regularly. Yeah, okay. Cool. Does that answer the question enough? Oh, and there was another question, which I thought was a really good one. Do microbiomes and the type of microbiome that you have, does that influence cravings for food, or is it another part of your brain and hormone system that influences cravings? What do you think, Kim?
I'm not sure if it's the type of microbiome, but microbiome certainly affects what foods we crave.
So it kind of like knows what it's not getting, and it will like sort of influence
Mm,
that through
Not
that. Like
always necessarily what it's not getting, but it definitely affects our
it
craving.
can. What have we got next? I feel like I should know this.
It's Alas.
It's Alas. There we go. Welcome, Alas. Tell us the things with. Oh yes, I remember this part. Links to health conditions. This is a good bit.
Yes. So, so as Michelle just mentioned, I'll be talking to you all about the link between our gut and some health conditions. As you can see, oh yes, just having trouble with changing my slide, sorry. As you can see in this slide, our gut is linked to various body functions, and if something goes wrong with this interaction, it can lead to various health conditions. So for instance, conditions related to the immune system include allergies and autoimmune diseases. Cardiovascular health relates to things like heart disease and high blood pressure. The gut hormone axis links to conditions such as menopause. Metabolic conditions relate to obesity and type 2 diabetes. Issues with lung function can lead to asthma, and issues with the gut-brain axis lead to neurological and mental health conditions such as autism and depression, to name a few.
Isn't it fascinating just how much the gut influences in your body? Like you kind of just think
It's
the gut's
mind-blowing.
it's just for making like waste products.
Yeah.
But it's not. It has so much
There's a lot
going
going on.
on.
Yes.
Such a busy little system, the gut friends.
And in the following slides, I'm going to expand on some of these conditions. So this next slide lists several gastrointestinal disorders, and they fall under different subcategories, as you can see. Under the inflammatory category, we have conditions like ulcerative colitis or Crohn's disease. Irritable bowel syndrome is a functional disorder. Colorectal cancer would fall under structural. Celiac disease is a malabsorptive disorder. Gastroenteritis falls under the infectious category, and gastroparesis would fall under motility disorders.
All the different types of things that can go wrong with your bowel.
Yes, yeah,
Fabulous.
exactly. So I'm going to expand a little now on irritable bowel syndrome, which I think a lot of people have heard about. Symptoms,
Quite common.
symptoms some people may experience include things like cramping, pain, gas, bloating, diarrhea, or constipation. But because these symptoms can relate to many other conditions, yeah, absolutely. And they all represent different types of carbohydrates, also known as sugars. So these can cause symptoms in hypersensitive individuals. So normally these sugars are fermented in the large bowel, but in hypersensitive individuals, symptoms can occur. So in order to determine if you are sensitive to any of these FODMAPs, you would need the help of a dietitian to follow a 3-step process, which can take up to 5 months. So it's quite involved.
It's a commitment.
It really is, yeah.
But it's worth it.
It is worth it for those who are
really
suffering those
struggling.
symptoms. Yeah, absolutely.
Because that's not fun, is it? That
No.
sounds horrible.
Yeah, it can be. For those people with IBS, it really can impact their life, their daily living. Yeah, so step 1 involves eliminating all foods containing high levels of FODMAPs. Step 2 involves reintroducing one type of FODMAP at a time to see if it triggers or causes any symptoms. Then once the triggers have been identified, step 3 begins where you reintroduce the FODMAPs in amounts that you can tolerate without causing any symptoms. So it's really not about eliminating them for life. It's about working out what levels your body can cope with, because really who wants to eliminate, a food that you love for the rest of your life, not me.
That sounds like a very logical system too.
Yeah,
I like that.
I
It
think
must be so good when you work out like the pieces of the puzzle fall together and you're like, yes, I know which FODMAP.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially since some people really struggle for a very long time before they realize that they even have IBS. Yeah. All right. So moving on to the next slide. This one's talking about the gut-brain axis. So it's a two-way communication system, as the name suggests, between the brain and the gut. You may have experienced butterflies, for instance. Ferment the fiber we eat. Short-chain fatty acids such as butyrate are produced and have anti-inflammatory properties. And these can help protect our gut lining, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah.
But remember, fiber is very important.
Yeah, that's what your little gut friends like.
Yes,
gut friends
they
like
do.
fiber. That's
Absolutely.
their main food.
And Grace will talk a little bit more
Yeah, we're
about
going to
that
do a
later
big
on.
section
Yeah.
on how to feed your gut friends happy fibers.
Yes. So some of the chemical messengers involved in this pathway include serotonin, which makes you feel happy. GABA is involved in making you feel calm, and dopamine is involved in feelings of pleasure. And having reduced levels of short-chain fatty acids and these chemical messengers can lead to poor mood, anxiety, depression, and other mental health conditions.
So it's so important to keep your gut happy so that you can keep your brain happy.
Yeah.
Wow. I love
Amazing
that.
how it all links together, isn't it? So ADHD and autism are two conditions that are thought to be linked to the health of the gut-brain axis. In ADHD, for instance, people tend to have an increased risk of IBS And although some diets, supplements, and probiotics are thought to help, more research is needed in this area.
This is kind of an emerging one, isn't it?
It really is.
People with
Yeah,
ADHD have sensitive brains in lots of different ways, but there's sort of a gut-brain sensitivity aspect of
absolutely. Yeah.
neurodiversity. That's an
Mm,
emerging field.
yes. And up to 70% of autism, people who have autism, interestingly, also have some sort of gut issues. Sensory challenges can be common in people with autism, and research has shown that positive reinforcement and gradual exposure to different foods can help them to improve their acceptance of various foods and increase the variety in their diet, which can sometimes be lacking.
Yeah, so then that helps their little gut friends and they might be less likely to have gut issues or decrease the gut issues. That's really
Correct.
cool.
Yeah, yeah. So when looking at gut health and obesity, a healthy microbiome is essential in digestion, nutrient absorption, and maintaining a balanced metabolism. Hormones also play a very important role. For instance, leptin influences satiety or feeling full after a meal. Ghrelin tells you when you are hungry, and estrogen is involved in storing fat in your body. Bacteria, viruses, fungi, and parasites. Sadly, though, this defense mechanism can weaken with age in some people. So what about gut health and joint pain? Well, in terms of osteoarthritis, there are some types of bacteria in the gut which release toxins and can cause inflammation. This can then cause the immune system to attack its own cells and cartilage in the joints. If we have a faulty immune system, it can lead to some inflammatory arthritis conditions such as gout and rheumatoid arthritis.
Everything's linked. That's no fun either, is it?
Sorry?
I was like, that's no fun either. Everything's linked. I promise
know.
everybody, the second part, we're going through the things that it could affect, but we're also going to talk about how to make it happy and,
Yes, it'll have.
reduce the likelihood
We're getting
of
to a happy
yeah.
ending, don't
Yeah,
worry.
there'll be a happy ending. This is all a little bit doom and gloom at the moment, but don't panic.
So in terms of the link between gut health and hormonal changes, estrogen and progesterone are two hormones that can influence digestive movement, and fluctuations in these hormones can either speed up or slow down digestion. These changes can also lead to some of the symptoms we mentioned in an earlier slide when we talked about IBS. And so this once again highlights why it's really important to first see your doctor to determine what might actually be happening before starting something like the low FODMAP diet. Interestingly, testosterone is a hormone involved in helping to shape the gut microbiome, with high levels linked to greater balance and diversity. And in terms of perimenopause and menopause, there appears to be a bidirectional connection between estrogen and the gut microbiome. So once again, links all around.
What does estrogen and the gut, like when you say it goes backwards and forwards, what are they telling each other? What are they saying?
They're just, yeah, so that's a great question.
Have I just
I'm not actually
gone
sure.
outside? Well, yeah, like it's probably the speeding up and slowing down, like you said. But yeah.
So that would be part of it. There would be other things. I mean, hormones are one, like we've got several different types of hormones, and they're very small molecules which are very potent, and they really have several functions, and they're not. When I'm giving you examples, I'm giving you one example of many. So they really do a lot of things in the body. They have multiple roles.
Multiple conversations. They're chatting all day long. The hormones in the gut.
That is true.
Can't make them be quiet.
That is what's happening. Okay, everyone, it's check-in time. I appreciate that I just went through a fair bit of information in quite a short period of time. Does
There was
anyone
a
have any
question.
other
It
questions?
was like,
Yes.
will we get all these slides because I can't write fast enough? And the answer to that question is yes, we send out the slides and the recording in an email probably on Monday or Tuesday next week. So you get all the information. So you don't have to, you can just listen and you don't have to panic about writing down everything they say. Yeah, I just find that hormone linkage really interesting. And as you age, it changes as well. So yes, good times.
So
Look
when
at
we
the,
talked about the nervous system as well, you've got your neurotransmitters, these chemical messengers. There's a lot going on, a lot of systems
yeah.
talking to each other in different ways. Yeah.
And all the serotonin being made in the gut, and the gut. I feel like I want to say Grace. That sounds like I'm going to say
Yes.
Grace. Right, it's Grace's turn. Welcome, Grace. Yes, this is the positive
Thank
part
you
about
so much.
how to do the good things so that you don't get the bad things. Yes, go for Grace.
Yes, we've got some practical strategies which will be helpful to implement. So thank you. My name's Grace. Now that we've covered how gut health can impact your overall health and health conditions, Kelvin and I will take you through some eating tips and tricks that you can do to improve your overall gut health. So there is a lot of information out there, and I know it can be really overwhelming. But what the question we want to answer is, how can we get the right balance of bacteria and other microbes in our gut for good gut health? So our gut health isn't only determined by what we eat and drink, although it is a big impact, and we will cover it shortly. It's also important to note how other lifestyle and environmental factors like physical activity, pre and probiotics, hydration, and stress also play a role in and affect our gut health. But firstly, I will talk through how diet can affect gut health. So the first tip we have is to have a healthy diet with a diverse range of foods. On this slide is the Australian Guide to Healthy Eating. This is a food selection guide which visually represents the proportion of the 5 food groups recommended for consumption each day. So these 5 food groups are fruits, vegetables, grains and cereals, lean meats and protein alternatives, and dairy. So along with this guide, there are recommendations for the number of serves of each food group to aim for each day based on age and sex. Some of you may have heard the phrase 2 fruit and 5 veg a day, and this is where that comes from. So on this slide are the recommended daily intake for fruit and vegetable food groups based on age and sex. And for the majority, you can see it's recommended to have between 5 and 6 serves of vegetables per day. This might sound like a lot at first, but you can one standard serve could be 1 medium tomato, a cup of leafy veg, or half a cup of cooked veg. So corn, broccoli, peas, they all count. It's good to aim for a variety, so there's so many vegetables to choose from, and the more colours you eat, the better, as this indicates a wide variety of nutrients, of different vitamins and minerals. Some tips to increase vegetable intake could be adding to soups or wraps or bulking up a sauce.
Do you know a funny
For
one? I
everyone-
remember watching a Netflix documentary where this guy was convinced that if he had this smoothie with 62 different vegetables in it a day, it would solve all his problems. So he found a way
Wow.
to put something like 60 something vegetables into one smoothie. And it was
That's
fascinating.
amazing. I
It didn't
think
look
listing 60 vegetables is...
yeah, and
Sorry,
it was to get every little part of the nutrient and every little thing, from research. As this is technically this is what I need for a whole
Wow.
day. And it was but it looked like this very thick, very not good tasting thing. But I mean, get them in a smoothie. That's one way to do it.
That's good. Good to be experimental. Yeah. And for everyone, an average, of 2 serves of fruit a day is recommended for everybody. So 1 serve could be 1 medium apple, banana or orange, and 2 small fruits like apricots or mandarins, or half a cup of berries counts for 1 serve. It's important to try to limit fruit juice, especially pulp-free, just to occasions, and to prioritize whole fruits where you can. And we've just got a poll now, open up a poll. We'd like to hear your thoughts on how many Australians aged 18 and over do you think meet the recommendations for both fruit and vegetable intake? And this is based off a 2020 to 2021 survey. So we've got
This is the
options
fun
5 to
part where you have to
10%.
guess. Ooh, everyone's guessing. I can see the answers. Do 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 do. I like making the quiz noise when it's quiz time. Do 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 do. Ooh. When everybody's clicked, we'll give it a couple more seconds. What do you think? What percentage of people actually eat the right amount of fruit and vegetables?
So the 5 serves of veg and 2 serves of fruit.
Okay, I think we are ready. No, we're not. They're still going. 12 people have answered. How many people are in here? That's probably about it. Okay, reveal the answer.
I can't see what everyone's voted for. Oh, there we are. I can see what everyone's voted for.
It was a real mix.
Great. Yeah.
So who
So
was
a few of you
right?
guessed correctly. Yeah, 6% of the population meet both fruit and vegetable intake recommendations in that survey.
No!
Only the 5 to 10% was correct. So a third of you got it right, which is
So
excellent.
that's really optimistic for the person that thought there was more than 50% of people were meeting that. You must have really good eaters in and around your family and friends. Yes.
So we know from the survey, we know that 45% met the recommendations for fruit. So nearly half are meeting their fruit serves, and 9% meeting vegetable recommendations. So yeah.
Oops, do I make that go
Very
away? Did the
good.
poll go away? I think it went away. Yeah, isn't
Okay,
that
happy to move
fascinating? Yeah.
on?
I was
Okay.
like, I really like veggies, and then I think about how many I eat in a day, and I probably don't often get to a full 5 serves. I definitely would have
Yeah.
some every day, but maybe it's just a matter of it's like bulking it up rather than you don't have
Yeah.
any is usually the problem I find.
Yeah.
30
Well,
plants
maybe
per week.
this next tip
Yes.
could be helpful. So for gut health, it's not just the fruits and vegetables that we're interested in. Research is beginning to show that a diversity of plants in general is really important for gut health, specifically our gut microbiome. So the 40 trillion microbes that live in our gut, they all perform a different job, and each type of bacteria likes a different type of plant food. So when we consider this, the more diverse plant foods we feed our gut bacteria, the more diverse they become and the more skills they have that benefit our health. So if you think of your gut microbiome as an orchestra that works together, just as you can't have only violinists within your orchestra, your gut microbiome really shouldn't be made up of just one type of bacteria. So you need the variety with the different plants feeding all the different types of bacteria so that they can play their different roles but all work together to benefit our health.
Yeah, I want a skilled microbiome. I like the idea of that. Get some skills down in there.
All the skills.
All the skills.
So plants can be categorized into those on the screen. So we've got fruits, vegetables that we talked about, but also legumes, whole grains, nuts and seeds, and herbs and spices. So aiming for as many different types as you can throughout the week, and the research is showing that aiming for 30 in a week is a really good number to aim for. It's been shown to see so many benefits, including to our skin, our energy, and our immune system.
Gordana has a quick
Yes.
question.
Oh, that's
Sure.
just about the meat and dairy foods. What about that protein? Are you coming to that?
We've got a bit more to talk about in terms of fiber. There's a lot of research in fiber. Yeah, so including meats and dairy products is really helpful for your health based on those serves that we talked about earlier from the Australian Guide to Healthy Eating.
You haven't said one word about
We're talking more about plants.
Okay.
We're talking about the things that your gut biome likes to eat. And because your gut biome likes to eat a lot of fiber, and there's a lot of fiber in these things, we're talking about the variety of different vegetables and how to feed that fiber in a
Okay.
diversity to the gut. But that is a good point. Like, does the gut want protein, or is just protein for
Yes.
other parts of our
I thought
body
protein,
systems?
I thought protein was the building block of life.
Yep,
it's
amino
really important. It
acids.
builds all
So
of our muscle
where is the
tissues.
protein
Yeah.
in the vegetables and fruit?
Which are
So we're
protein
we're
filled.
really interested in the fiber for our gut health. Protein is really important for other aspects of
Like
health, for
your
building
brain
muscle,
and your
but
muscles
not
and everything.
directly.
But it has to go
Yeah.
through the gut first and then gets to your brain, doesn't it?
Yeah, so legumes, nuts, seeds, whole grains do actually contain
A
protein
fair
in
bit
them.
of, yeah, that's true. They do,
Yeah.
don't they? All that
Yeah.
legumes column has pretty good protein in there.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yep.
and as do the nuts and seeds.
Oh,
and
yeah,
whole
the nuts
grains
and
do
seeds.
contain some protein as well.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, vegetarian here and well, almost vegan. So yeah, legumes are really important for me.
Yeah.
No meat, no pork, no, none of those things. Thank you.
No, your gut likes the fibers and it likes protein, but it likes fiber more. I think is kind of what we're getting at here.
Yeah. Excellent questions. Thank you. So just going back to the slide, you can see there are 30 different plants listed. And you could have a think about how you could incorporate 30 different plants into your week. Maybe a good place to start to working up to this, not rather than jumping straight into it.
You could just
is
go
to
the
think
62 veg smoothie. Maybe don't do that tomorrow. No.
in
Go
one sitting. Yeah.
baby steps.
Think about what you've had today. Yes. If you could think about what you've had today or had through the week, it requires a bit of memory, but think about how many different plants you've had so far and thinking about where you could add some in. So say you have porridge in the morning, that's one plant with the oats. Think about how many other plants could you add to that to bulk it up. So could you slice some banana on, sprinkle it with some nuts and seeds and maybe some cinnamon, and then that's an extra 3 plants right there just in breakfast. Okay. So one of the main reasons we're trying to encourage intake of a diverse range of plants is because they're often high in fiber, like we were speaking about. So this leads us on to our third tip, which is to try and increase your fiber intake. So fiber is a part of food that's not digested, and it can help you feel fuller for longer. But the key role of fiber is to provide prebiotics, which is a non-digested part of food that feeds the good bacteria in our gut. So fiber is essentially the main food source for the good bacteria and living, and it allows them to grow and support our body functions like our immune system, hormone production, and overall gut health, like we talked about. And the more different types of fiber that we feed our gut, the better the bacteria flourish and support our health and well-being. A lack of fiber in the diet can limit the amount of nutrients that your gut bacteria get, and therefore they can't perform all the benefits that we were talking about earlier. So the current recommendations for fiber intake are shown on the screen. The adequate intake recommendations for male adults is to aim for 30 grams of fiber a day, and for female adults aim for 25 grams. A 2018 review stated that in Australia, only 70% of adults are meeting these recommendations. And you can see there's another target on the screen, the suggested dietary target, which is the daily fiber recommendation to reduce the risk of chronic diseases. And that 2018 review stated that less than 20% of adults are meeting these targets. But as we talked about the Australian Guide to Healthy Eating a couple of slides ago, if you're meeting those recommended daily serves intakes for the food groups, it will really help you to achieve those fiber intake targets. And in the next slides, we'll go through some strategies to help you to achieve intaking your fiber. So how can we slowly start to introduce more fiber into our diets? So as I spoke about, fiber is found in plant foods. So in whole grains and high fiber cereals like Sultana bran, all bran, Fiber Plus, Wheat Bix, oats. Also in fruit and vegetables like I spoke about before, and these can be fresh, frozen or dried. And also nuts, seeds, legumes, and lentils. So some tips here to increase your fiber intake could include choosing wholemeal or whole grain options. Could be switching to whole grain or even multigrain breads, swapping to brown rice instead of white rice, or choosing wholemeal noodles and pastas. Adding some fresh or dried fruits to breakfast cereals, and in the colder weather like we are now, porridge like I spoke about. So adding nuts or seeds are great sources of fibre. Could also try swapping out some of your typical snacks for those with higher fibre. So things like fresh fruit like mandarins and kiwi are in season at the moment. Raw vegetables like celery and carrots, try dipping in with hummus, or a handful of nuts and seeds and wholemeal crackers are other good on-the-go options. Another tip to trying to leave the skin on fruit where you can, on fruit and vegetables, as this is where most of the fibre is. And especially in stews and casserole style dishes, try and swap out some of the meat with lentils, beans, chickpeas or other veg to bulk up the fibre. And I just want to emphasize that it is best to increase your fibre intake gradually and over a few weeks rather than jumping straight to those aims. This will allow the natural bacteria in your gut to adjust to the change over time. Because if you think you were a colony of bacteria and you suddenly got your food intake doubled or even tripled in a matter of days, you might feel a bit overwhelmed or a bit bloated or crampy or have a bit of wind. So
Get a bit of unwanted side effects. Yes, I once ate like I got so excited about growing vegetables at home that I ate a whole bunch of fresh radishes. And I was like, oh, delicious, dipping my radishes in like garlic and olive oil. And then, yeah, that was maybe a little bit too much fiber and a little too much FODMAP and Are we going to do the fun thing now where we do swaps?
Whoops. Yes. Trying to move on. Yes, here we go.
Yep.
So on this slide is a comparison between some typical pantry staples. They're on the typical pantry staples on the left, and their high fiber counterparts are on the right.
Wow,
so
look
as
at
you can see
that.
at the top, I know, big difference. You can see at the top, Weet-Bix has 8 times the amount of fiber compared to rice bubbles.
God, that's a big jump,
Or you
isn't it? Go Weet-Bix.
And whole grain bread. Whole grain bread has double the amount to white bread. Leaving the skin on potatoes increases the fiber. If you peel them, you can remove up to 40% of the fiber, which is
also
nearly half,
delicious.
so that's quite significant. That's, yes, roast potato with the skin on, I think. Really
roast
nice.
potato with the skin on is yummy. Yeah.
Yeah. So these are just some of our recommendations for increasing fiber. We aren't trying to add more foods to your diet or to completely eliminate them. They're just some swap ideas that you could have a think about. So after looking at this slide, it would be great if you could write down on a piece of paper or into the chat a potential swap that you're thinking about in terms of increasing your fiber intake. Just think of maybe one swap for now, or something you could add in to increase the fiber of a food you're already having.
All right, thinking of something in my pantry. I already do a lot of those swaps, actually. Do you know what, though? I had to swap brown rice for, what's the low GI rice called again? Basmati rice.
Basmati?
What's that? So if you went from white rice to brown rice because you wanted more fiber, where does basmati rice fall on the scale? Is that a very specific question?
Particular numbers. No, I know that this is kind of another topic, but if you've heard of GI, that basmati has a low GI,
that's why
which is really helpful for like maintaining blood sugar. But that's a whole other presentation.
That's a whole other topic, but I was just curious as to I've swapped back from brown rice to basmati rice now. Mashed potato. Has anyone got any in the chat? What's another good swap for puffed cereal? So is that if you don't like Weet-Bix, what else could you swap puffed cereal for? Puffed cereal has probably got not a lot of much of anything in it except for air. So there's probably some other good cereal alternatives.
Think about what high fiber things could you add to the puffed cereal rather than
Yeah.
a swap is really helpful. But if you don't like the alternatives, what can you add in that are high fiber that could
That's a good
boost the
point.
overall fiber? Yeah. You can get
Carmen's
puffed
cereal,
rice, I
someone
think, which is like,
suggested. So Carmen's is that like
yep,
muesli with lots of fruit and oats and things in it, and there's like tons of different varieties of it. What do you think about Carmen's cereal?
yeah,
I mean, I
different
know you guys
flavors.
don't like
Yeah.
recommend different brands and whatever, but maybe like is a muesli or a granola a good swap for puffed cereals?
Yeah,
Do you
because
think?
it has a mix of all those high fiber nuts and seeds or fruits already incorporated into the mix, which bumps up the fiber, which is really great.
Yeah. What's another good one? I do like the fact that those plain biscuits for like Vita wheat biscuits, that's a pretty good one. The other one about Weet-Bix is, well, especially if you're feeding kids, it's often it's got a lot of folate and iron and other stuff in it that can be
Mm,
they sort of what's that word for when they add all those extra things into bread milk and Weet-Bix? Sort of like loaded
yeah, it's
up.
been fortified.
Fortified, that's the one I'm
Yeah.
looking for.
Yeah.
Maybe white bread for sourdough bread would be another good one.
Hmm.
White rice for quinoa. Or
Excellent. Very good.
yeah, especially those tricolor quinoas, they're pretty
Yeah,
nice.
they're all great options.
Yeah. Okay. I think we've swapping meat
Fantastic.
for legumes, Evie said. Yeah,
Yep.
thanks everybody. That's good swaps. Good things to think
Excellent.
about.
Thank you. Excellent. I'll now hand over to Kelvin, who'll be discussing the remaining tips that we have for gut health.
Can I ask a few little mini questions from the chat just here because I think they relate to the things you said, Grace? Do
Yeah.
frozen veg and fruits have less nutrients? That is a good question because that comes up a lot. Is there anything that happens in the freezing process that makes frozen fruit and veg any less nutrient dense or fiber filled?
Frozen fruit and veg are a really great option because often when they're frozen or and stored, they're kind of snap frozen when they're at their peak in terms of
I
nutrient density
feel
and
like there was an
ripeness and
ad.
things.
Yeah, that was all like
Yeah.
snap
So
frozen.
they,
It locks
yeah,
everything in.
that's it. And they don't lose a lot in that process compared to if you had some zucchinis going rotten at the bottom of your fridge, they would probably start to lose some of their nutrient density over time if you weren't eating them when they're at their best. So in terms of weight,
From regular dairy wheat and meat, or do they hit the same? Do they create the same kind of microbiome so you're not missing out? Does that make sense? That's what she's typed in there.
what do you mean by wheat
No,
alternative?
I can explain. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't get it. You tell me what you mean,
So,
Evie.
as someone who is celiac and I also dairy as well is a problem, is it different? Because I know that you can't just swap normal bread for gluten-free bread. I feel like is it creating the same amount of fiber is I guess is my question. Same for if you're looking for calcium from milks. Is
Mhm.
it creating the same reaction or microbiomes that's needed, or does it need to be substituted with something else on top of already having, say, oat milk or soy milk?
That is a good
In terms
question.
of the microbiome that you're
Yeah.
creating.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, if you're celiac, it's
Mm.
like it's okay not to eat the wheat. That's the
Yeah.
best, suggestion for
Yeah,
you.
that's not going to help your
Yeah,
biome.
no, but in the sense,
And
in
so then
like,
adding
yeah,
so adding in all the different kinds of grains that you can eat that aren't wheat based would be
Mhm.
really great in terms of creating the diversity.
Mhm.
If you're thinking about calcium, did you say something about
Yeah,
calcium?
Like if you have to have alternative to dairy,
yeah,
will your
Yeah.
microbiome be all lacking because you don't ever have
yes,
dairy?
yeah,
Will it be all sad down there being like,
No,
why do
you
you only feed me
yes,
soy milk,
Yeah, if you're still incorporating quite a wide variety of all the things that you can have, your biome will be really diverse and you'll still have all those
Okay.
benefits. So
And there's
it's
probably
okay if
nothing
you
in
can't eat one or
dairy.
two of those types.
It's probably nothing in dairy that you couldn't get from a bunch, like a mixture of other things. You can get calcium and
Yeah,
sugar
yeah,
from other places.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
No.
yeah, exactly. Did that answer
Good.
your question?
Yeah, no, it does. And then I did
Okay,
have, if I
fantastic.
can just slip in my other question as well,
Go for
is
it.
by hitting fiber targets, for instance, like once you get to that point,
Hmm.
does that
Yeah.
decrease your, like how people, lot of people consistently have pains, gas, bloating, sickness, diarrhea? Will that help reduce that and possibly erase it? Or does it have to be mixed in with a bunch of other things? Like it's not just focusing on the fiber in your gut.
Yeah, I guess it depends on what your root cause of those
Yeah,
symptoms
what's
were.
causing it?
And if you had some kind of like unbalance in your gut bacteria that was producing those symptoms, if you added those varieties and balanced out those good and bad bacteria, that could help if that was
Mhm.
like the problem that was, yeah. If you were still having symptoms, I'd suggest seeing your doctor or dietitian just to
Yeah.
see if there's anything else going on. Yeah.
Mhm.
We've got some more questions now. Sourdough bread, does that have more fiber? Is there such thing as wholemeal sourdough? Haven't seen it. Yeah, is
Yeah, you
yeah.
can use like wholemeal flours to make sourdough or different types of flours like rye.
Does
Um,
sourdough have more fiber than normal bread or wholemeal bread?
it depends on how it's made and what the flour was used. It can be
Ah,
helpful if to read the label on the back. I know that's kind of another topic for another day as well.
yeah.
If you're, yeah, but depending on where you get it from and the type of flour, I know that's not like a simple answer.
Is
Um,
Nutrigrain
but we're
any
going to get
good?
into some ferment.
Yeah, I don't know about that one. What do you think of Nutrigrain? It's got a lot of sugar in it, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I guess it depends on it's hard to just give a yes, it's good or bad. Food
Yeah,
is not like, yeah. But if you can add in some fruits or having that on the side, sprinkle with nuts and
yeah.
seeds, just adding to the fiber is always a good idea.
What about people with diverticulitis? I've heard of this before. Eating grains when you've got diverticulitis, what about, is there a thing there? If my partner
Mm,
eats too much fiber, it becomes an issue.
hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, it can be really individual. There's different management strategies depending on if you're having a flare up or not. And
All
in terms of
right.
fiber recommendations and things. So there's like if you're feeling well or if you're feeling like you're having a flare, there's different suggestions there. It could be good to speak to
It's
someone who can
very
give you that personalized
personalized, isn't
advice.
it?
Yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah,
there's no one answer for everybody's gut biome. This is kind
yeah,
of like, different swaps out might help someone with diverticulitis, but it depends on a whole range of factors and if that's what
yeah.
is causing the flares and yeah, what stage they're in. But
Generally, for diverticulitis, if you're having a flare, having low fiber foods just for a short period of time until your symptoms
will help settle it.
go away, and then it's really important to go back to having high fiber for that long-term management.
Hmm.
Yeah, but that's quite
Okay.
general. Yeah.
Can it be stress related? Everything to do with your gut can be
Yes, we're
stress
getting to that.
related.
Kelvin's
Yes,
going to get into
Kelvin. Let's
stress.
do Kelvin because I've just noticed it's 7:05. So we want Kelvin to have the full time to do the rest of the tips. We'll talk about stress at the end. All right, Kelvin.
Yeah. Friends, Grace, and then so another way we can look after our gut is eating diet full of pre and probiotics. Prebiotics are plant fibers that act like fertilizer to your gut, stimulating the growth of healthy bacteria. They lay the groundwork for probiotics to come in and do their thing. As Gray said before, prebiotics foods are rich in fiber such as whole grains, legumes, beans, and fruits and vegetables. So, if you are aiming to eat foods high in fiber, chances are eating foods high in prebiotics, which is a great news to for your gut. And where prebiotics as like the fertilizer, probiotics are the flowers in which prebiotics helps thrive. Probiotics are foods that contain live bacteria that make their way down to your gut and help keep your gut microbiome that we spoke about earlier nice and healthy. Probiotic foods include yogurt, some cheeses, and fermented foods like kimchi, miso, kombucha, and sauerkraut, kefir. And this slide above has a nice little graphic on some foods that contain prebiotics and probiotics.
Nice. So prebiotics are the fertilizer that helps grow the gut biome, and the probiotics come along and help it thrive. Nice.
Yeah.
I like that. Pickles. Yum.
Next. Movements
So
and
important.
for everyone. And those are just the benefits for our guts. Staying hydrated has so many other benefits for our health. Also, if we are increasing our fiber intake, which Grace just touched on before, it is important that we increase our water intake with this, as fiber works best in our bodies when it is consumed with water as it absorbs water. So now we can go to do another poll. This poll will be on how much you think is the recommended water intakes for adult.
Ooh, there's a clear favorite. How much water should we be drinking, everybody? Do do do. I forgot to do the quiz music. Do 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 do. Still guessing, anybody? Feel free to click it on your slide, on your screen. Okay, I think that's everyone. All right. What is the correct answer? Go.
Yeah, very nice.
You guessed correctly, mostly everyone, or
Yeah,
the bigger group of people.
yeah.
Wow.
The correct answer is 2.6 liter for men and then 2.1 liter for women. And if you are someone who can find it hard to get their recommended daily water intake, there are many ways to get your water intake that doesn't just involve drinking water. For example, drinking herbal tea, eating fruits and vegetables with high water content like watermelons, cucumber, capsicums, lettuce, tomatoes. Other ways you can hydrate your body. You can also add a bit of flavoring or cordial to water if that helps. To increase your hydration, make water your first choice of fluid over drinks such as juices and soft drinks. These drinks can still have a place in healthy diet, however, water should be the first choice.
Someone in the chat has asked if water can be in the form of decaffeinated tea. So yes, that one, the
Yeah.
slide says tea. So I'd say yeah, decaf tea,
Yeah,
still water.
it is suggest that we drink some fluid without the caffeine,
Yeah,
but the water should be the first choice.
water first choice, but yeah, also tea's good.
Yeah, like herbal tea,
Herbal teas are good, yeah.
it is without the caffeine.
Yeah, without caffeine.
Yeah. Next page, please.
Oh, that's right.
I think Grace is out. Yeah. Stress can also have impacts on how our gut functions. Stress can be experienced in many different forms. Psychological, like anxiety, fear, frustration, sadness. Sociological, family, financial, work, birth, and death. Biological, medical, pain, allergies, aging, and environmental, like noise, temperature, pollution, and also physical, like exercise, surgery.
So
And
much stress, so many
yeah,
things that can cause stress in our lives.
yeah. But sometimes we don't realize that.
No, that's true. I hadn't thought much about environmental stresses. I mostly seem to focus on the psychological ones because they seem at the front of your mind. But yes, it can come at you from all different directions. So it's important to
Yeah, it
be
depends
aware.
on the people.
Hmm.
Yeah. And as you can imagine, sometimes some or all of this can be impacting us at the same time. As Ella's touched on earlier, stress can interfere with our gut-brain axis. When we become stressed, there are a number of things that can be happening in our body, particularly in our guts. The above picture shows a nice little outline of some of these things that can happen to your gut when you are in states of stress. In a nutshell, stress puts our body into a state of fight. When our body goes into fight, it puts us into a survival state, delaying processes that aren't necessarily needed for survival, one of which being digestion. So when our digestion process is put on the back burn, the processes in our stomach are slowed down, which can result in decreased nutrient absorption, nausea, constipation, diarrhea, cramping, indigestion, and heartburn. Stress can also cause inflammation in our intestines and can even make the barrier in our intestines weaker, which can lead to our gut leaking bacteria into our body. This is normally fine as our immune system comes along and helps us clear this out. However, you can imagine that when this happens often, our immune system gets tired of constantly helping, which can in turn lead to chronic gut issues. And it is important that you find strategies that help you when you feel stressed. This will differ from person to person. It could be meditation, mindfulness activities, talking with family, friends, counselor, or journaling, or adequate sleep and exercise. Next page, please. Similar to stress, there are a few other things that can negatively impact our gut health. Medicines and antibiotics can change the amount and type of bacteria within our microbiome, which can change and even potentially damage it. Some medicines include antibiotics, anti-inflammatories, and laxatives. This doesn't mean we shouldn't take these medications, as they can be really important and can be crucial at times. But it is good to be aware of how they can impact our guts and what we can do when taking these medications to try counterbalance the damage they could be doing, such as taking probiotics with them, especially with antibiotics, and taking all those steps we spoke on previously. Next, a diet high in ultra-processed foods can interfere with our gut-brain axis and cause inflammation. Ultra-processed foods are foods that can be high in salt, fats, sugars, artificial sweeteners, and other chemicals. Preservative that extend the food shelf life and essentially keep those foods safe for us to eat. This can be foods such as takeaway foods, commercial baked goods, packaged foods like chips and lollies, soft drinks. Due to the processing nature of these foods, they can be high in bad and then that can ultimately affect the healthy bacteria in our microbiome. Excessive alcohol consumption can also cause inflammation and affects the gut lining, meaning other substances in our gut can cross into our bloodstream, particularly toxins. Furthermore, it can overall impact our microbiome. It can also make it harder for our digestive enzymes to break food down when we eat, as it impacts the gut liver axis that Alice briefly spoke about earlier. Next page, please. Artificial sweeteners are synthetic sugar substitutes. They can be used in sachet form, like the image uh, in the slide, to put in coffee, drinks, baked goods, or they can already be in prepackaged products. Artificial sweeteners can alter the gut's microbiome and subsequently lead to our body not being able to break down the sugars in our body well, building an intolerance and disturbance to our metabolism. They can create imbalance in our gut microbiome and can even cause gas and bloating as they aren't easily digested. Poor sleep and exercise can lead to poor bacterial diversity and increased inflammation. When we sleep, we are allowing our body to rest and digest. Our body gets to have a break from all the busy things we have been doing throughout the day. However, when we don't get a proper sleep, this can put our body into a state of stress, which, as we also from our stress slide, does not make our guts feel very good. Studies have even shown that when we exercise, the beneficial bacteria in our guts increase by 40%.
40%, that's huge. 40%. If you
This is
do more exercise, it can increase by up to that amount. Wow. Oh, and it
yeah,
even says that's huge. Nice.
yeah, this is very significant increase. And
Significant increase. Exercise is good.
yeah, and moving our bodies also helps to keep things moving through our digestive tract, regulating bowel movements, meaning helping us go to the toilet essentially. The key takeaway message from these slides is to maintain a healthy gut, particularly if you can be prone to gut issues. Try and limit intake of ultra-processed foods, alcohol, and artificial sweeteners, and try to move your bodies with exercise and get quality sleep. So, just to check in after our session on eating tips and for our healthy gut, we will just do a little activity. We have two lists here, one for positive impacts and one for negative impacts. We are going to use the reaction button in Zoom, the thumbs up and the thumbs down.
So
I
if you
want
can
you,
see down the front of your Zoom thingy, if hopefully you can see a button that says react, and if you press that, it gives you a number of little things. And so Calvin's going to say a thing, and then we have to guess if it's positive or negative by putting up a thumbs up for positive or like a thumbs down or a sad face or whatever you can find in your reactions.
yeah. Can we start?
Yeah, go for it. I'm ready with my little thumb up thing.
Yeah, the first one is increase the fiber intake.
Increase. Thumbs up. Hey, look at all the thumbs up. Oh, this is fun. I love it. Okay, increasing fiber is good.
Yeah, and the second one, eating diverse foods from the 5 food groups.
Oh, I'm gonna.
And stress.
Oh, stress. Let us find the. I'm gonna do. Oh, look at that. Look at Christine's little unhappy stress face. Yeah, that's a good one. I'm gonna scroll down. Oh yeah, look. Oh no, look at my stress. Negative. Sorry, I'm just annotating all of the emojis as we go. Oh, that's a sad iPhone. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
unhappy. Stress is no
yes,
good.
yeah. Artificial sweeteners.
This is a tricky one though, because sometimes you can have you're replacing those because you don't want to be having. I'm gonna put like a medium face because you want to be reducing having real sugar. So you go for the not real sugar for the calorie difference, but then it can have this impact on your gut. So I guess you got to weigh up the pros and cons and probably don't eat like 27,000 packets of artificial sweeteners.
Mm,
Tricky.
yeah. Eating foods with pre and probiotics.
I'm gonna find a happy one. Look, I'm a laughing cat. Yay, I love bananas and yogurt. Okay, what's next?
The next one is poor sleep and exercise.
Hang on. Poor sleep and exercise, or poor sleep and poor exercise?
Poor sleep and poor exercise.
Oh, little sad face. Look at me. Oh, I didn't get exercise and sleep. It's bad for my gut. Oh, yeah, that's a good one. No sleep. I'm a skeleton.
Yeah. Alcohol.
Again, pros and cons. Let me find the list. I'm gonna go E. Yeah. Oh, Evie's got the crying face emoji. Bikini. What does that
Yeah.
mean?
Next one is medicine and antibiotics.
Yeah. I mean, if you've got something that you really need antibiotics to kill, then good. Antibiotics will kill that thing. But yeah, the impact on your gut, not so fun.
Mm. Eating variety of fruits and vegetables.
Oh, ready? Yay, I'm laughing. I'm so happy with my fruits and vegetables. Yay, look at all the happy reactions.
Staying hydrated.
This one's hard. I'm going to find some water in here. Oh, it's too hard. Oh, look, there's a search button. Ready? Here's a tap. Staying hydrated, so good for you. So hard to remember to do. And when it's cold, I don't feel like chugging cold water. I need a giant drink bottle for warm tea, which is very doable. They exist these days.
And the last one, diets high in ultra processed food.
Oh, boo, ultra processed food. Boo. Yeah, that's right, Christine. Angry face. Snail. That's what it makes you feel like.
Yeah.
Boo. I like this part. It's fun.
Next
Oh, sad
is
faces. Right. So that's all the things we've learned.
yeah.
And tune into your gut.
And gut issues differ from person to person, and everyone experiences them at some point. Symptoms can look like constipation, diarrhea, nausea, stomach pain, cramping, bloating, reflux, indigestion. And like I said, we can all experience this from time to time. However, if you feel you experience this often and they can be causing you discomfort, often within your lifestyles, it is important to head to your doctor as
Go
a
and get it
starting
checked.
place
Yeah.
to be checked out. And for any kind of gut issues that could be going on, if there are any gut issues at play, a dietitian can also help identify what kind of factors could be involved with the symptoms, identify foods that could be triggering, and help manage the symptoms. Tune in your gut when or if you experience these symptoms. It could be helpful to write down the symptoms, what you ate prior to the symptoms, mood, do you feeling stress or calm, or if you could be taking any new medicine. It's a branch of takeaway food power, has artificial sweetener in your coffee. By writing this down, you may start to see a pattern with your symptoms and any triggers. Next page, please. Yeah. So to summarize, our guts can be complex thing, but by eating a healthy, varied diet full of those foods high in fiber like our fruits and vegetables, high in pre and probiotics, by keeping our bodies hydrated and keeping them moving with exercise, reducing our stress and intake of ultra processed foods, alcohol, and artificial sweeteners, we can keep the microbiome in our guts healthy and can even prevent disease. Thank you.
Nice. That is the main part of all the information, and this is just a quick slide on what the Nutrition and Dietetics Clinic is. Who are you going to talk about this one, Kelvin, or?
I can talk it.
Yeah, you do it.
Yeah, I can introduce it. If you would be interested in seeing a dietitian, the UC Nutrition and Dietetics Clinic offer a great service that at affordable ways.
It is
They are
affordable. It's a cheaper option than going to a dietitian, and you get to see these wonderful students. And so if you would, yeah, it's a good option if you've on a budget.
yeah, it is a student-led clinics and that offer individualized dietary advice, comprehensive nutrition assessments, and body composition analysis. Feel free to jot down the contact details above if you were interested in booking an appointment.